It's episode 116 of the Improv London podcast. I'm your host, Stuart Moses, and this week's guest is Yuya Eckhoff. Is that right?
That is right, yeah, Yuya Eckhoff.
Excellent. Right, okay. I should have just carried on. Hello!
Hi, Stuart. Thank you for having me.
How are you?
I'm really good. And I'm extremely pleased that you got my name right.
Thank you very much. I do try and get names right. Names are important, both in improv and out of improv. You are in two duos at the moment.
I am, yeah.
Tell me about Dudes. And why is it called Dudes?
Dudes is my duo with Ed Farger. And, we are a couple, but we call each other Dude. If this is like when we message each other or something, and we wanted to have a name that that didn't imply a certain style.
Oh yeah.
That didn't that wouldn't make people think, oh, that is what we get. And now, basically, that is what people get. Usually, our sets start with two dudes, just two friends, which means I usually play a guy as my first character in that specific set. And usually it's about these two people and their interaction with each other and their flaws with which they drive each other up the wall, but at the same time being best friends.
Yeah.
So the kind of interaction you usually just have with your best friend, where you think, okay, at this point in time you might be an asshole, but we have to work with the material at hand, so let's deal with that. And we have a lot of fun with it.
Cool. And do you ask for a suggestion?
Yeah, just we ask for a suggestion of anything at all,
right,
and then run with it.
Cool. And do you have a particular format that you use?
We develop it. Well, I mean, the beginning was that Ed had a gig with his other duo partner, but then that person couldn't make it. So, because he and I just improvise occasionally when we're at home, I said, well, if you need a partner, I can jump in.
Yeah.
And that worked very well, and we had a blast. And then we just said, yeah, maybe we should just continue doing that.
Yeah. Yes, it must be a help if you know someone, if you're in a relationship with someone that you know them really well. That must be easier. Is it easier or is it more complicated?
Oh, it's so much easier. It's great. I love it. Ed is easily one of my favorite people to play with because of that, because of what you described, because whatever he can do and say anything to me on stage. That is the one thing that's great, because I know that, because there's an underlying understanding of we love each other.
Yes.
So there's nothing that could hurt me where I, on the level of the player, would get defensive and say, oh, wait a minute. Maybe in character we should discuss our relationship as friends, because that can't happen. There's more trust in that. And also because we talk all the time, it's very easy to get on the same page from the very beginning.
Yeah.
So it is much easier. Also because we had a lot of scenes or sets where we had a triangle relationship. And so whenever we then in our sets play a couple, there's no question that I would kiss him to say hello. And there's no this little awkward thing of, okay, but we know this is cool, right? Because we know this is cool.
Yeah.
And also he can pick me up or whatever, throw me around, because I would trust him in any situation.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of people ask that. whether that is more difficult or whether that can lead to any kind of conflict but not at all. It makes things much easier, actually.
So you don't ever confuse what happens on stage with real life?
No, not at all. Also because everything that is in our lives off stage has nothing to do with what we do on stage.
Right, okay.
And nothing that is improv related is as important as our relationship. So we established that from the very beginning. So there was never a question of, if you fuck up that set, then I might sleep at my place. No, this is just another us playing together. It's just another fun thing we do.
Yeah.
So no, it was never complicated.
That's good, because sometimes I worry if somebody is using improv to say stuff to me that they really mean, but it's not acceptable for them to say it in real life.
Yeah. I definitely had the same feeling in some situations in improv. But if you have a very open way of communicating with each other anyway, then there are no surprises. And I think that is a very important thing with anyone I play with, for me, to just know there's an underlying understanding of, we know how much we like each other.
Yeah, so you like each other as improvisers, but you might not necessarily like each other as characters.
Oh, yeah, and then if necessary. Yeah.
And do you find yourself playing certain roles in Dudes?
What do you mean with
So do you play sort of certain characters? So, I was just wondering if you fell into sort of playing sort of, loud and confident characters, or whether you played high status characters or low status characters, or can it just be a mixture of everything?
It can be a mixture of everything. And usually, because we would, within the set, we would go into different characters.
Ah, right.
And also take over each other's character.
That's one of my favourite things.
Yeah, it's great, right? Yeah. Because also sometimes the other one has the more fun character, and then you just wait for your turn to take that over and walk a little bit in these shoes. So we don't necessarily fall into roles within the set, but we do have different strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah.
And
what are your strengths?
I think I have a very low level of embarrassment.
That's a great strength.
Yeah, and I think if I can endow my characters with as many flaws as possible, I have the best time.
Really?
So that's what I mean with a low level of embarrassment. I don't feel like my character is my business card.
Right. Yeah.
I don't expect anyone to say, "Oh, look, you played an asshole on stage. That must be her in real life. Thank you very much. I'll walk another way." So, yeah, maybe that is my strength. But I have never thought about what my strength might be. So this is just my guess.
Well, I've got a big question towards the end that covers that again, so we'll return to it later. Regular listeners will know what question this is. So you mentioned your strengths. What are your weaknesses?
Oh, wow. Definitely because I improvise in English, first and foremost, the language. Mm-hmm. Because basically, when I moved here, I cut my vocabulary in half. Yeah. And that is just what I have to work with, or what I get to work with. meaning that also when it's getting super fast and sophisticated, I might get a bit of this facial expression. Yeah, this is great in audio, but
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
just because I can't follow, and also I can't do puns,
Right.
which is a huge thing here in British improv. But there is just something where I have to raise my hands and say, "You guys got that." I can't compete on that battlefield.
Is puns an unusually British thing then?
Well, I can't say that confidently
Right.
because I only have so much experience with different improv scenes, but it seems to me that British improv is more on the word level than, for instance, a German improv or in international festivals. That is, I mean, I could just sit and listen to an English improv set, a British improv set, and just enjoy that, just enjoy the audio of it.
Yeah.
Because it's that good, and this is just something I can't pull off.
No, fair enough. And I really struggle. I'm terrible at wordplay and puns and that sort of thing. That means when it happens, it's all the more delightful.
Yeah.
Because it happens so very rarely. And I would say I agree that in the acts from other countries that I've seen that have come over and done UK festivals, they do seem to have a physicality that perhaps in general the UK scene lacks. Which is, interesting. I think there's much we could learn from other countries.
Yeah, and I think vice versa. Because without my object work on stage, I'm not that comfortable.
Yeah.
I'm not comfortable with just standing and talking because I know that I don't bring a lot to the table.
So, you started improvising in Germany?
I did, yes.
Tell me your improv origin story.
Oh, actually, the thing was I had a lot of free time at that time because I had knee surgery in December 2013. And before that, since I was a teenager, I did Kung Fu. At least when I was a teenager, I did that 6 times a week.
Wow.
And then later when I started university, a little less, like just a couple of times per week. And then in my mid-20s, there came some rock climbing into the mix. And I just, all my hobbies were extremely physical.
Yeah.
And then my outer meniscus ruptured and I had to get knee surgery. And what the doctor said very reasonably is what you might not want to do is smash your leg into anything solid. Which is fair enough, right?
Not bad advice. Yeah.
That guy made a lot of good points. But that also meant that and also when you climb, you use your legs a little bit like a frog to push up, and all of that not good for the knee.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so all my hobbies were just brushed away, and after I had learned to walk again, which took in total that was 5 months, I just thought, okay, and now I have to find a new way of spending my time. And do you know Meetup by any chance? Yes. I had signed up to that website years ago when I lived in Sweden to learn Swedish. And then I remembered that website and just logged on again. And apparently I had punched in that I'm interested in theater.
All right.
And there was this Meetup popping up, a couple of people meeting on Saturday afternoons in someone's living room and doing something called Improv theater.
Wow.
And I just thought, well, okay, I can give it a shot. That looks like fun. And I went there, and after 2 hours, I came out of the building, and I thought, okay, that's the shit. I don't want to do anything else anymore. And from then on, I just kept playing and playing, and it was it was really the best thing. After Kung Fu,
Right.
I had the same level of excitement when I started Kung Fu that I had with improv, only that improv was even better.
Wow.
So I thought, okay, no, I'll keep that.
Improv officially better than Kung Fu, unless you want to fight
For
someone.
one person in the world, that definitely is true, yeah.
Cool. I think you're very brave going to someone's living room and doing improv. That's two brave things at the same time.
Well, in hindsight, now that you say it,
I mean, I'm glad it all worked
Good
out.
point,
I'm glad it all worked out brilliantly. I'm really happy it all worked out. Yay. I suppose you had done Kung Fu. I don't know. Does that make you feel safer?
Yeah, exactly. But then
But,
also
yeah.
the freshly operated legs.
that's
I
gonna
could
give
have
them a
just
chance.
threatened them with my previous experience
Yes.
in
Just
Kung Fu.
when my leg is better, I'm
Yeah.
really going to kick the shit out of you in a Kung Fu style. Cool. I really love the randomness of that. It's like, yeah.
It was completely random, and it was a very lucky pick.
Yeah. So what is it about improv that you love? It's a hard question, but...
I love it that I can create a world with someone else. And this connection with another person, and you're on stage together and you're in this together.
Yeah,
So as long as no one drops the slack, you're fine.
Yeah.
And this feeling of neither of us has created this, but rather this was a group effort.
Yeah.
And we couldn't have done it on our own. That feeling, do you know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean, and that's what I say when someone asks me what I love about improv. It's the ability to create a shared imaginary universe with somebody else that we could not have created individually, and then we get to play in it. Yeah. I entirely agree.
Yeah, exactly. And that also then the tiny little moments when you look at your scene partner, or your scene partner makes a choice and says exactly what you were anticipating.
Ooh.
But no one else could have thought of that, just because you guys have been playing together for that long. You think, you fucking genius. Gosh, I love you so much, but my character hates you, so I won't hug you for that. These sweet little moments.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Yeah.
Can you think of an example? It's hard.
Oh gosh, yeah, that really is hard. Maybe. No, I can't think of an example.
That's fair enough. It's really hard. So that's entirely why I love improv. It's it's that shared communication with people and the ability to just be, it's that level of connection that I really like, which I don't think you get from anything else.
No.
Not even Kung Fu.
No, exactly. Also, connection with your with the person you fight with is exactly what you don't want to have, right? We both bet you to the ground. Oh my God, that would be a terrible thing to say. No, but also I did a lot of spoken word when I was in Germany.
Oh, right.
And that was in parallel to improv.
Yeah.
Because poetry slam in Germany is a comedic thing.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And there I noticed that it is the connection with someone else that I really enjoy. Because when you're standing there in front of the audience with your prepared text, and it's fun because you always try to get them on your side. You're on the one side, your text can be great, and if the audience hates you, you won't score any points.
Right. Yeah.
Or you get you somehow win their sympathy. You somehow get on the same wavelength with them early on, and you get away with everything. That is brilliant, and that's a lot of fun. But only for this moment, because backstage, a lot of people won't talk at all because they are so focused, or because it's a competition. And also, everyone has created their own little piece on their own.
Right. Yes.
And I so missed this feeling of doing something together and creating this whole thing together. That I know, okay, I think this is really what I love so much about improv. Not the necessarily the creative aspect, which is also great. Not the interaction with the audience and making people laugh or making people cry. But it's really the thing of you and I were in this together, and we will make this work. That's the best.
No, I totally agree. So when you were doing slam poetry, what sort of subjects, what sort of slam poet were you?
The one who walks on stage with a black hair and a huge cloak. No, not at all.
No. It's a shame because I quite like that image you were painting.
Oh my God, that would have been hilarious. I should have done that. I would have made myself laugh at least. I usually took an observation and first described the scenario I saw, and then pulled out a general observation from the way. Let me give you an example because that was very cryptic. So one text I really enjoyed presenting was about a previous flatmate of mine who had these kind of two personalities. He was, during the week, he was this very low energy. What's the
downcast? Button tight lip, buttoned up.
Accountant.
Yeah.
And then on Friday evening, he just got berserk. Then he got his fancy clothes out and went to clubs and just partied all night, and came home at 5 a.m. and cooked some spaghetti and slurped around and tried to get rid of his hangover during the weekend. And it was such a crass difference between these two personalities. And I described that the difference between his two personalities, or rather his two personalities, and then took that and said, well, so who are we? I didn't know who he was. He was, that was two different people, but which one was actually Niklas?
Right,
I didn't have an answer for that. And then I took that further, asking within the text, so who are you? What is it? Which kind of character traits are really inherent to you as a person, and which one do you put on to fit into whichever environment you're in? And what do you say because you mean it, and what do you say because you think it's appropriate? And I just really enjoyed that thought, and so I made a text out of it. Yeah.
So and did it rhyme? Was it rhythmic?
Oh, it always rhymed.
Always rhymes, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
In German poetry slams, there's usually a mix. Some people write comedic stories that don't rhyme, so are prose, and others would present poems.
Right.
And I tried to write a couple of funny stories. Turns out I'm shit at it, I'm not the worst person in rhyming. So apart from making the audience like you, the second trick is make it rhyme, and you get away with a lot. So I needed that extra little goodie to make people accept my slam contribution.
And so it's competitive. How are the judges? How do we know who's won?
The audience judges that.
Right,
So you present your text, and then there's a voting system, either by applause or by raising their hands. Or sometimes when it's a huge audience, like let's say 300 people, then a couple of them get, let's say 10, get a board where they can put on numbers between 1 and 10.
Right.
And then the combined number or the combined votes would then add up to the final scoring. And after the first round, just the people, like half of the people, let's say if we have 10 slammers, the top 5 would get to the next round.
Right.
So it's like a KO system.
Yeah.
And one thing, at first when I started, I did not quite understand why they do it as a competitive thing. But then someone explained it to me, because that is the only way of making people shut up during the presentations, because they are the judges for whatever they hear. And so there wouldn't be any talking in between, because they really have to hear what is presented to make an informed decision. I thought, oh my God, that's genius.
Yeah.
Whoever came up with it.
Yeah.
It's great.
I'd not heard of that before. Yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah, I found that a brilliant system, because it also worked like a charm.
So do you find you use either your kung fu, rock climbing, or slam poetry in improv? Have you ever drawn upon those 3 skills?
I do use a lot of physical movement, not necessarily rock climbing, because I wouldn't know how. Unless I climb on somebody's shoulders, which I did in a couple of sets. But you really have to know with whom you can do that and with whom not. But I think I wouldn't have needed rock climbing for that at all. Kung Fu, definitely, because it's when you fight, you're completely calm inside. Your body has to move super quickly, and you have to see everything at the same time. Meaning, inside you're completely zen, but on the outside you have to be very twitchy and move extremely fast, also with different parts of your body at the same time. So I feel what I learned during the 10 years that I did Kung Fu helps me in that respect.
Interesting.
Also when I have a when within the scene, let's say my character gets into some extreme emotion, then still inside it's still that little monkey juggling fruit, you're just inside I'm calm, when I'm outside just going wild or not, or cry, or whatever it is.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and also in Kung Fu you learn how to control every single part of your body at any given time. So it's great for object work, because I would never crush my cup, because my hand, while I play, my hand is still in the shape of whichever object I just grabbed. Just because you have to, again, it's the control of your body. You have to be able to do that. Otherwise you will hurt yourself and others in a way you did not intend in Kung Fu. Yeah.
Well, that's brilliant.
And the slam poetry, well, when I when I lived in Germany, I played rhymed sets. So where you have dialogue, but every piece of dialogue is rhymed,
yes.
which is an awful lot of fun. I loved it, but I can't pull it off in English.
Fair enough.
That would sound terrible, just because of the limitation of my vocabulary. It's no. I think that would result in nonsensical dialogue.
Right. Okay, fair enough. And Dudes isn't the only duo with which you are in. That was terrible English, I apologise.
Oh! I feel the language of this episode is bad English. So I think I feel now very supported in this choice.
I will gladly mangle my questions.
Thank you. Much appreciated.
So you're in another duo?
Yes. Well, I play with Stephen Davidson, and we don't perform. We just meet once a week and play improv together.
Aww.
Because he and I just really enjoy playing together, and we have our weekly rehearsals where we just for 2 hours improvise together. It's like a play date.
Yeah, brilliant. That's really good.
It's so good. Yeah.
The first time
so
I saw you perform was in a scene with Stephen. It was one of the Dave Wazowski courses, and I watched the live feed, and I thought, "Who's this?" She's really good. Stephen's all right as well.
I'm flattered.
So yeah, how did you get together with Stephen to do this?
Well, I was here a couple of times before I moved here for workshops. The nursery organized, and in the first workshop that I was in, I met Stephen. And you know Stephen, he's just a lovely guy, and it's impossible not to think, oh my God, what a great person.
Yes.
So, whenever we were in a workshop together, we really enjoyed playing together. And when I told him I move here, he said, okay, then let's somehow, in some capacity, play together.
Yeah.
And first we assembled a team together, he and I, but the team didn't. We did that via an audition, and the team didn't gel, as it sometimes is.
Is that something?
Yeah. And then after, I think, half a year, we checked in with each other and said, somehow it doesn't feel right, right?
Yeah.
And or I initiated that, and he said, oh God, I feel the same, but I still would like to play with you. And I said, I feel the same way. I feel exactly the same way. So why don't we just play together? And then yes, exactly. Let's just do that.
Yeah.
And it's great. It took us a while to find out what our thing was, what our format was, and we occasionally found something fun, and then just did that as long as it was fun, and then moved on to the next thing. And at the moment we improvise plays.
Wow.
And that is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It seems that this is the thing that also as kind of narrative style, what we started out with our group, what we initiated, and we kind of took a detour to come back to that.
Yeah.
So it feels like a very natural way for the two of us to play together.
Yeah.
It
sounds like a really lovely thing to do.
Yeah, it's as I said, it's like a play date without any intent of, okay, we have to put a show together and we have to achieve this and that, but our goal is, I just want to play with you. And that's that goal we achieve every time.
That's brilliant. That sounds excellent. And so is there a particular format? You say it's kind of quite play-like and narrative. Is there a particular format that you're following?
Well, I couldn't couldn't say this is the kind of format or a preformed format, but rather we usually, because we rehearse here, we just
at the
ask
nursery.
at the nursery.
I should say
training
thank you
center.
to the nursery for giving. I always forget to do this. I should do this more often, so I will do it now, and then I'll let you carry
Please
on. So I do
do.
apologise. Thank you to the nursery and Stephen Davidson and everyone at the nursery for supporting this podcast and giving us space to record. Thank you very much. I'm sorry I interrupted. Please carry
No,
on.
please. That's very important. So we rehearse here. So usually we ask someone in the office to give us a title for our play, and then we just start from there, and it becomes a story,
Wow.
which is just a lot of fun because we're also not limited to a certain time slot.
Beautiful.
We have our 2 hours rehearsal, and if we feel inclined to do so, our play goes for 1.5 hours.
Wow.
Absolutely unwatchable, probably. but who cares if no one watches, right? Yeah, it's. I don't think it's more specific than
Right.
improvising a play together.
Yeah, that sounds great. So you're in 2 duos, and so how do you warm up? How do you warm up when you're in a duo? Because if you're in a larger group, you can play all these sort of games. If you're going to warm up in a duo, how do you do that?
It depends on the duo. For instance, Stephen and I, we always warm up with the Colombian mindfuck. Do you
What's
know
a
that?
Colombian mindfuck?
This is one starts with words, so you go in beats like one day, I went,
right.
and so on and so forth. While the other one, with every word, would do a movement.
Oh, right.
And
Yes.
let's say I do the movements, then I would have to in my second
Second,
beat,
yes.
I say your first word.
Yes.
Whereas you mimic my movements one beat behind.
Yes.
And
I had not heard it called that. I have done that. I hadn't heard it called that.
It's,
It's really hard. Yeah. Okay, cool. Excellent. Yes, good.
yeah, and also we then after we did that a couple of times, we do a little mind melt,
Right.
and then we just ask each other, "Are you warm? Are you warm?" And if we are, then we just go and play.
Fantastic.
And with Ed, we just start. Usually our rehearsals are somewhere in our living room, and we have been talking to each other all day or all evening already. So we just take it from there. And when we have a show together, first we check in with each other. Just how was your day, to just know what is the state this person is in at that moment.
Yeah.
To just also know. Also, for me, it's first of all I hear myself saying what's my emotional state at the moment.
That's interesting.
And also I inform my scene partner of this has been going on today, and this is the context of my whole day. Because even if I try to strip it all off and just say no tabula rasa when I go on stage, none of this has happened. Of course, everything has happened. And I can make a conscious effort of not letting that affect how I play. But given that it's an art form that is spontaneous, I feel, at least for me, it's impossible not to let my day affect the choices I will make on stage. So after we did that, usually when we have a show, we do a little warm-up, which is associating back and forth. And then after a couple of minutes, we stop, and then we go backwards. I would say, I don't know, let's say I would say, my last word was socket, and then I would say, I said socket because you said electricity, and then you electricity because you said that. So you go back, and Stuart, it works. It
Yeah?
works every time because
Wow.
if you follow the logical
Yeah.
next thing that popped in your head
Yeah.
during that association, it's no problem.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. And it's nice to just get the feeling of also the other person. Where's your head
Yeah.
today? Where's your mind going?
Yes.
So yeah, these tiny little warm-ups.
Yeah.
What kind of warm-ups do you and Bryn do?
Bryn and I just have a chat.
Yeah.
So yeah, partly about the days we've had, but also just I ask him what he's really enthusiastic about, because I'm not necessarily going to bring it into the show, although sometimes I will. But just if whatever's exciting him at the moment, I just think that's a really nice thing to know about your scene partner. And then if you can either try and bring in some of that sort of excitement, or even the specific thing he's talked about, sometimes I'll do that. So yeah, we don't do anything more complicated than that. It's just a case of having a good chat, and it's a fun thing to do.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Cool. And you've also been in various nursery originals.
I was.
Tell me about that experience.
So I was at the beginning of the year. I was in Heads My Droll.
Right. Yes.
A political satire one that was it was Arfie's project,
Yeah.
and when he mentioned it at that time, I played with Somewhat Theatre, so he mentioned it, I think, during one of our rehearsals, or also we're friends off stage, so somehow he mentioned, and I thought, well, if you're the director, then sure, I'm on board. I'm on board. He's a great guy, and whatever that's gonna be, we will have a shitload of fun in rehearsals and at the shows. And that was we workshopped it a lot during the rehearsals, and it turned out to be a very rigid format. Lots of little shortcuts in the sense of there was this the panel of 3 judges, and they would call for evidence, and they were holding an inquiry,
Right. Yeah.
on some kind of political topic, and then they would call evidence or testimony, where just someone would rant. Just stand on stage and just vomit their opinion in front of the audience. All these little fun things. Or then, what else? Like a cartoon, where just a couple of people would jump on stage, and then it was up to the panel to make sense out of it. We see here. Oh, what? So yeah, that was a lot of fun. And then after that, I was in the Animals of Penny Fauna.
Oh yes.
Which
yes.
is the which is Animals of Farthing Woods improvised.
Right. Yeah.
So playing talking animals. I'm on board. Sure.
You demonstrate the complete opposites of your range there.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
We're going to do political inquiry. Now we're going to be talking animals.
Yeah, that was a much smaller cast. Heads My Droll was, I think, 12 people. And then Animals of Penny Fauna, I think we were 6. And that was a different director. That was James LaLashe. And she has a completely different style to Arfie, which was also just fun, because when you have a director, you just sit there, right? You're in a you just sit in a car and you're driven somewhere, which is brilliant. You don't have any responsibility.
Yeah.
You're just supposed to improvise, which is this great experience, like when you're on a walking tour and someone just tells you where to go. Yeah, and for that I just binge watched The Animals of Farthing Wood on YouTube because I had never watched that when I was a kid. And traumatizing.
I've never seen it.
It's The Animals of Farthing Wood are animals in a forest, and then something, I already forgot what happens to the forest, but they have to leave that forest and find and someone tells them about a forest somewhere else.
Yes.
And so they all go together.
Wow. It sounds like Watership Down. Do you know Watership Down?
No. I know it's this kind of...
It's alright. It sounds very similar. Don't watch it. It's horrible.
Okay.
Or read the book. It's very traumatic. It's animation, but it's very, very traumatic in the way that this sounds like it might have been.
It's interesting how even cartoons can make you cry, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
And also how even when it's not a human personality, it's I was in tears when I watched Finding Nemo, and I don't know how they did it. I think it's all in the eyebrows. But yeah, it's The Animals of Farthing Woods. You know, that someone, one of the animals gets eaten, or then there's the snake, she's called Adder, and she always fights her compulsion to eat other animals, but she has to rein it in because they are all a fellowship of the forest seekers. You know? So it's really, really dramatic. We never pulled that off in a show. But we had a lot of dramatic sets, and some of them worked better, some of them worked less good, as it is in improv. But it was always a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Just getting permission to play animals, right?
Yeah. How did you get that? That's amazing.
And the last one I was in was Magic, the Harry Potter one. Yeah. And what shall I say? We had cloaks and we had wands. That was great.
Yeah. Who did you play any of the characters from the books or the films, and who was your favourite person to play?
I played, yes, we had these canon characters. We within the rehearsals, we found out that it wouldn't be good to have too many of them within the same show, let alone the same scene. But yeah, we touched upon them. And my favorite one, which was also the one I kind of researched during rehearsal, and then this was like my scene, was Dobby.
So and did everyone have to research individual characters and then present how to play them? Because that's a really interesting idea.
We didn't go through all of them. No. No, not everyone who had researched one would then actually present it, because it took a while to say that, and to let the others in on what you found. But for instance, I didn't present to the group how Dobby was played.
Right.
But at some point, Jules said, "Yeah, could you play Dobby?" And in the rehearsals, in the scene. And then we're like, "Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. There's no problem at all," because he's just very, very physical.
Yeah.
And a lot of fun to play.
Yeah.
Did you watch Harry Potter?
Yes. Yes. I spoke to Jacob, who was also in the cast, and he was telling me about how you learned how to be Snape and Dumbledore and things like that. So I was really interested to know how you got to be Dobby. Yeah,
that Ed and I watched the Harry Potter like compilations of 13 characters on YouTube, and then like presented it to each other. His was Ron Weasley.
Oh right, yeah.
And so we just tried to like, is it that? No, not quite. what's Dobby's physicality? So it was, yeah, you watch it on YouTube, which is great for just, other people have pulled out the characteristic moments.
Right, yeah.
Also, I had never watched the movies before. I had read the books
Right.
and listened to the audiobooks, but when the first movie came out and I saw the poster, I had already read the books
Right, yes.
and listened to the audiobook, and I had my own Hogwarts, my own Harry Potter world, also all the faces.
Yes.
And I looked at these people and thought, I'm sorry, I don't know you guys. It's I bet you do a great job.
Yeah.
But sorry, not my Harry. Or not my Hogwarts in general.
Yeah.
So I didn't have that much of an interest in watching the movies.
Right.
But now for researching these different characters, that of course was great. Because it's easy to talk like Dobby, but most people probably have watched the movies. That would be the first point of contact with Harry Potter. So I better move like Dobby too, because otherwise it's just me with a little bit different voice, and everyone. I think she tries to some kind of goblin. So it's basically YouTube research.
Excellent. That's a really good tip. Thank you very much for that. You also you're interested in mime?
Yeah, I noticed a while ago that whenever I watch an improv set, I really enjoy good object work, or good object work, or rather specific object work, or cool tricks, like how do you walk, how do you play a scene that is just walking, just hiking somewhere, or going stairs up and down. And then someone pointed me towards a YouTube video which was physical theater, and they would recreate Robin Hood on a, I think, like maybe 2 square meter stage.
Yeah.
So that was their challenge, and that was the final presentation of some kind of class or like university course. So they were really, really good. And it was the best thing I've ever seen.
Wow.
And they did that all with mime and with different techniques of physical theater. And I thought, okay, I want to learn that. Because that looks like it's, first of all, it looks great. And secondly, it looks like an awful lot of fun.
Yeah.
And it ties in with the Kung Fu thing of, I love to control every part of my body at any given time. So in mime, you have to be able to isolate the different parts of your body, you know, when you just moving the head or just moving the bust or whatever your intention is. So then also when you play a robot and you just move really robot-like, what you do is that you isolate different parts of your body, and meaning you control different parts of your body, and you know where they are, and you just decide to keep them there and not move them randomly, and it's just something to get lost in.
Yeah, sounds amazing.
Yeah, it's great.
Fantastic. If someone were to step on stage with you to do a scene or a show or whatever, what could they do to delight you?
Find something for themselves. It can be something as easy as smoking a mime cigarette, or just an emotion. because if a person does nothing at all, it just stands there on stage, and then maybe because I always have my comfortable object work, then maybe creeps up and looks at it and says, interesting, and I think, oh great, we're fucked. Because this was my thing, and now it becomes the thing of the scene, which is obviously not true, but that is just my feeling that if I know the other person also has something for themselves, that we can go everywhere. So yeah, I think also maybe scrap that, because maybe the thing that really delights me is if we step on stage together, and before we even play, we just look at each other, smile at each other, and say, yeah, fucking let's do a thing. And this just the idea of let's create something here. It might be terrible, but we will create it together. Yeah. So the idea of we're both contributing to the thing we put on this stage together.
Cool.
Just this thing of, I won't let you down, I won't cheat out to the audience if I notice that this is not working.
Cool. And big final question. What's your signature move? What's the classic thing they do? You save the day, you bring the house down, everyone goes, classic Eckhoff.
Oh. I have a signature move, but I don't bring the house down with that.
Well, tell me about that signature move.
So I might have probably that would be a thing I do a lot, would be a question like, what happened to us? When for instance, we just for some reason we went to conflict, and then we went back and forth, and what happened to us? Just to get out of that.
That's really
it's a little bit like my ripcord.
Oh, I really like that. That's really good. Because
I don't like fighting in real life, and I don't enjoy watching anyone fight. So I don't want to put that in front of people and watch people and make people watch me fighting. So this is like my little thing to get out of this little loop.
Yeah, no, I really like that. It's establishing the sort of the emotional connection between the characters, and it's just like, neatly, I really love that.
Yeah, it's this thing, you would probably only say that to someone if you regret that you're fighting at that given moment, and this is not a liberation of your deep inner feelings towards the person you're just fighting with, but rather that you regret that it has come to this whole situation where there was so many negative emotions inside of you that you started arguing. Maybe that. And if it's not that, then probably some I would grab a piece of object work and just play with it.
Lovely. That sounds fantastic. Thank you very much for being a guest on the Improv London podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Stuart.
Bye.
Bye.
I made this.
That's improv!